Between Oliver Rowland's dominant title, rookie superstar Taylor Barnard and the dramatic campaign from the Jaguar camp, the 2025 Formula E season delivered on all levels. Hello and welcome fellow motorsports fans. It is time to review this year's Formula E action by running through every single team, talking about the inter-team matchups and their wider career implications. As is tradition on the channel, I have ordered the teams by the strength of their combined driver lineups, beginning with the worst one. For the bottom spot, there was really no other choice than the abysmal Lola Yamaha squad of veteran Lucas di Grassi and rookie Zane Maloney. Now, this team was probably the single most difficult to accurately judge because the car was so shit most of the year, but I think there's a good case to be made for them having the worst lineup as well. Di Grassi may be massively experienced and definitely capable of good individual performances, a Miami podium kind of proves that point, but the consistency was nowhere, and when you look at how stacked the grid is, I think it is fair to assume that he is at least in the bottom half of drivers. Meanwhile, the boy from Barbados might be a highly anticipated rookie, and his fantastic junior record speaks for itself here, but he has suffered big time from the classic FE rookie curse with barely any upside shown all season long. In many ways, I thought his performance was even worse than the Ruvela last season. Hell, even Bachmann showed a few more glimpses, even if I don't think it is fair to compare the two. What does that mean for the future? I think Maloney deserves another year. We know what he is capable of, and I'm sure it is only a matter of time until he unlocks his potential in Formula E as well. As far as this year is concerned though, I think there is no way but to consider the squad the worst of the year. The Porsche-powered Cupra Kiro team did find itself in an oddly similar situation to Abt, though with a much bigger upside on their good days. Dan Ticktum actually turned into a force to be reckoned with, and I do consider this season a proper breakout performance after years of a mediocre head-to-head against Seta Kamara. Taking both his maiden podium and later his maiden win is really just a cherry on top of a consistent point-scoring campaign from a driver usually more famous for his radio outbursts than his wheel ability. Together with Taylor Barnard, I think Ticktum firmly finds himself at the top of the list of drivers we'd love to see in a top team going forward, just to see if he can be a proper title contender. Meanwhile, rookie teammate David Bachmann had a terrible season, there is no getting around it. Factoring in the superior car performance to Lola, he was probably the single worst driver on the grid, despite the single point scored in the very last race of the season. And it happened in a pretty disappointing manner as well. We shouldn't forget, he actually started the year quite well, finding himself around the points quite often, only to end up in incidents time and time again. Eventually, this had seemingly shattered his confidence and he never found the same mid-race form again, fully relegated to be a backmarker. Considering that he had the experience of working in the Formula E paddock already, I don't even think he should get the same full rookie bonus we're giving to Maloney. I like the guy, but this was probably the last time we've seen him in a professional seat, even if I think he has significantly more potential than he managed to show this year. Maserati really is the definition of mediocre if you ask me. Not an obvious huge downside, neither between Stoffel van Dorn and Jake Hughes, nor on the team front itself. And yet, neither driver is particularly inspiring either. A single super lucky win on the board was far and away their best result, but not exactly one you can build on in the future. Van Dorn is a solid benchmark driver, but I don't think he has the skills to match the frontrunners in the series. And for Hughes, this season almost felt like a potential career ender in combination with his forgettable 2024, though I think it might be too early to give up on him entirely. He was good in his rookie year after all. Tricky team to rate all around, and I think forgettable sums up their campaign quite nicely. Nissan is a wild case. Having a championship winning team this far down the order is a disgrace, and that is all on Norman Nato. The Frenchman had a horrendous season in a car that dominated the first half, resulting in a shocking gap between teammates that really should never happen in a fully professional series. I don't know why he apparently gets to stay, but as far as I'm concerned, this should have 100% ended his stint in the series. Meanwhile, Ollie Rowland has a claim to the most dominant Formula E title in history, considering he locked it in with 2 races to spare. He might have cooled off a little towards the end, but was utterly unstoppable in the first half of the season, and crucially, he could seemingly win from any position as well. He had truly mastered the art of driving a Formula E car. If you haven't seen it yet, I definitely recommend to check out some of his wins this year. Roland is without a doubt a well-deserving champion. Much like Nissan, the gap between the drivers was also considerably too big over in the McLaren camp, with 2 rather different seasons playing out for superstar rookie Taylor Barnard and veteran Sam Bird. Barnard was far and away the most exciting driver of the season. Rarely has a rookie hit the ground running like this, and I've got zero doubt he'll be fighting for the championship in the future. In case you don't follow the feeder series, first of all, you should and could use this channel to help you keep up with things. I want to point out that Barnard is the perfect example of a driver who made it without the mega budget often needed to succeed. Sure, that means he was never even looked at by F1 teams, but he still worked his way to a professional seat on the mad expensive F1 ladder, a key example that the true talent often finds a way against all odds. Sam Bird, on the other hand, had a shocking season, which apparently also marks the end of his career on a low point. Bird has been around the Formula E paddock from the very beginning, so he will absolutely be missed, even if the driving wasn't quite up to the required standards anymore. And of course, this also marks the exit of McLaren as a team, with the organisation prioritising their new hypercar project by the looks of it. I'm still hoping someone buys that team and keeps the cars on the grid, but if I'm reading the news correctly, the odds for that aren't looking great at the moment. Really, this segment can be summed up with what a shit year from McLaren, despite Taylor Barnard's brilliance. As the highest rated of the teams with issues, I've put Envision, really mostly because I am inclined to give Robin Freins more of the benefit of the doubt than, say, Bird or Natto. Envision really had a 2-part season, hot garbage in the first half and a pretty sick and unexpected turnaround after Sebastian Buemi's surprise win at Monaco. Now, Buemi did wipe the floor with Freins, much like Roland and Barnard did with their teammates, but when considering the weaker car, I am almost willing to classify the second half of the year more as a Buemi overperformance than anything else. After all, 2 things are inarguable facts about Buemi: he drives like a cunt and he is absolutely rapid while doing so. For Freins, this apparently also marks the end of his Formula E career. Pretty big loss for the series, but I do appreciate a few more seats staying available for new talent as well. Andretti was probably the biggest mystery of all the top teams this season. Both Jake Dennis and his new teammate Nico Müller are clearly among the top drivers in the series. Dennis being a former, well-deserving world champion, of course. But somehow neither really got the results the squad must have been hoping for, despite running the rather potent Porsche powertrain. Dennis has at least made his way to the podium a few times and was scrapping for wins, especially in the second half of the season, and did still regularly manage to show those skills that got him the title in 2023. The points gap to Müller may look pretty big as well, but to be honest, I don't think it accurately reflects the on-track gaps between the pair. When things were going well, they were often charging together. It was more a combination of worse luck for Müller and general ability to make more of a mediocre situation for Jake Dennis. That second Tokyo race comes to mind, for example. I was super excited for DS Penske before the season. Maxi Günther finally racing for a top team is a combination I desperately needed to see, and at least in the win department it did deliver, even if there was never even a remote title challenge from him or Jean-Eric Vergne. Günther is a fascinating character in my opinion, absolutely unbeatable on his day, but he lacks the consistent approach to truly be a title contender. And he also drives way too aggressively at times, particularly when he considers himself a win contender, it feels like. 60 DNFs in a 16-race season speaks for itself, I reckon. Jeff is more or less the complete opposite. I don't think he's a match for Günther's speed, but he has mastered the art of actually driving a championship, just collecting solid points week in, week out to somehow find himself beating his teammate in the standings after all. As you can tell, I do consider Günther to be the better driver, but once you're at the professional level, this theoretical potential matters little, of course. Out of all the drivers rumoured to be out of the series next season, Jav would be far and away the biggest loss. Such a safe and consistent pair of hands is difficult to find in a series as messy as Formula E gets from time to time. Mahindra might have been the biggest surprise on the team front, going from hardcore backmarkers in the last couple of years to a team finding itself in win contention on a semi-consistent basis. Most importantly, it gave Nick de Vries an opportunity to show both his best and worst self in an effort to rebound from that shocking F1 stint. We know de Vries is pretty handy in FE machinery, and it wasn't any different this year, with the Dutchman finding himself on the podium a few times and just about outscoring Eduardo Mortara despite having to miss Berlin for his WEC commitments. Nevertheless, more memorable than his good races at the front were the incidents he caused and nearly caused later in the season, most heartbreakingly wiping out Jake Dennis to deny the Andretti ace his best shot at a win all year long. In general, the defensive racecraft displayed by de Vries was essentially just one big summary of everything wrong with Formula E at times, and not fully worthy of a series of this stature in my opinion. Hard racing is great. Once you resort to iRacing tactics to keep a position, you're probably overdoing it a little. If I'm entirely honest, I don't have much to say about Mortara. He was more or less matching de Vries in the races as far as I'm concerned, but he was often flying a bit below my radar. I'll concede that de Vries was probably the better of the pair and beat Mortara for a reason, but I know who has the more likeable driving style as well. What Natto did for Nissan is pretty much what Jaguar did for Nick Cassidy and Mitch Evans, letting them down big time. This was far and away the biggest fuck up on the team's front and only rivaled by early season issues for Envision in my opinion. We can't forget Cassidy at Jaguar was supposed to be a title winning combination. Sure, last year Cassidy may have thrown it a little in the end. Nevertheless, we all expected them to come back and try again this year. Instead, we had to watch a properly painful season for both Cassidy and Evans, relegated to the very back of the pack on a lot of occasions and even needing some luck just to get into the points. Somehow, some way, they have of course managed to turn around by the end of the season, provided Cassidy a race-winning package, and the Rapid Kiwi made great use of it by ending the season with 3 wins in a row, and thus ending as the driver with most wins all year. Evans has been more unlucky, and we know he is good, but no Nick Cassidy. We should still absolutely ignore the big points gap in the standings though, as that does not reflect the pace Evans brought to the table. The pair was reasonably closely matched overall, I reckon. As far as Cassidy is concerned, he truly is the master of the Formula E peloton style races for me. He has figured out the whole energy management game on a level that seemingly nobody else on the grid can match, meaning that if the car is competitive, he will find himself right at the sharp end come crunch time. It is beautiful to watch, and now that I say it, I kinda wanna watch a full race from his onboard POV now. Cassidy is still owed a title by the Formula E gods, and I've got a feeling his time will come soon. Who could realistically take the top step of this list other than Porsche? Pascal Wehrlein and Antonio Felix da Costa are probably the most closely matched lineup on the grid, and both of them are major title contenders wherever they go. There was no other choice than to give them the top spot here. Fittingly, Porsche has of course secured the team's title during the dramatic London finale. It is a tad disappointing to have only a single win between the pair, especially da Costa not winning at all after his wicked streak last season, but I think if anything this underlines a key aspect of this campaign. Porsche never looked like the strongest team, period. Instead, it felt like both drivers kept out of trouble for the most part and just consistently put the car as high up on the grid as it would go, often closely fighting each other for position as well. It'll always be hard to tell, and it might be the fanboy in me speaking, but I honestly believe this was a pretty big overperformance to get anywhere near the title conversation in the first place, although nobody ever truly challenged the mighty Ollie Rowland, of course. As far as the dynamic between the duo is concerned, gun to my head, I'll say Rowland is the quicker of the two, but honestly, it is so track/weekend form dependent that I do feel comfortable saying they are on the same level. If Porsche provides the necessary equipment, I'm sure both will be right in the championship battle again next season. And last but not least, a few words about the state of the series as a whole to end on. The pit boost may have been delayed multiple times, but now that it is finally here, I can confidently say it has improved the racing product, particularly by turning the doubleheader weekends into two distinct races in a way that just different lap counts can't quite accomplish. Also, and this may be an underrated aspect, it is just cool from a tech perspective. We shouldn't forget that this kind of thing can be highly intriguing for potential new fans. Additionally, the four-wheel drive attack mode changed the entire strategic dynamic of the series, and while it sometimes looked a bit too strong for my liking, it is definitely much preferred over the old lose 2 seconds for basically nothing attack mode we used to have. But this is where I'm really interested in your guys' opinion. How do you view the changes for the 2025 season? And what driver did I horribly under or overrate in this little review? Please let us know down in the comments so we've got something to discuss. And otherwise, I thank you all for watching and I do hope to catch you in the next one, whether that'll be a classic race week review or another full season review for the USF Pro 2000s.